They released that body cam footage with a quickness. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I'm back. As I said, tonight it kind of changed around a little bit because we got the Chauvin verdict a lot faster than I thought, and there was another police shooting in Columbus, Ohio. We'll talk about both of them, and then we'll go into Antifa, and we'll also briefly discuss some of the stuff that happened last night after the verdict came out. And it was not what I thought it was going to be at all, and that's a good thing. I'm pretty happy about that. If you like what I had to say, please like, subscribe, share with your friends. It really does help with the algorithm to push the channel to that next level. I talk kind of about the merch. I got some great ideas. A couple of them are kind of funny that I think people will appreciate. So I'm working on that. If you dislike what I had to say, go ahead and tell me in the comments what you dislike about it, and I'll answer you. We can have a civil debate. I can have you on to do the interview. I tried to do it with a sovereign citizen who was having some electronic issues and then never got back with me. I'm also thinking about starting a TikTok page where I do some of the shorts with some of the characters I brought up before, like Little Stretch, and I have the Alien, and I now have Salty Sloth and some other stuff. And I think I'm going to start working on that on TikTok, so that'll be a little bit different. But let's go ahead and get into this. We'll start off with the Chauvin verdict. Now, with this, whether you agree or disagree with it, it's a done deal right now until appeals go in. He'll be actually sentenced in about 8 weeks. And if you watch the live verdict, the judge explained the process and what goes on with that. But let's just read through some of this article I pulled off of CNN. George Floyd's younger brother was in the court, and one of the comments taken from it was, "I was just praying they would find him guilty." He explained, "As an African American, we usually never get justice." Now, I will say, after watching probably about a third of the testimony, I didn't actually watch any of the defense testimony. Everything I watched was the prosecutor's witnesses. And in my mind, there was some doubt. But then again, I'm not sitting on a jury, so I'm not going to judge a jury. I know there were comments made by Maxine Waters the day before that if he's not found guilty of murder, there needs to be more confrontation and it needs to become more intense, which I did not like. And there's been other comments made after he was found guilty by leadership within Black Lives Matter that now all this protesting and rioting has led to him being found guilty. So now there needs to be more of it to change the system. And I disagree with that completely. Do I think politics played a role with the jury finding him guilty at that rapid rate? I don't know. I'm not going to make a guess because I'm not going to say something like that could be seen as negative on the jurors. They did their civic duty. They did it to the best of their ability in my mind. And I was not present in the courtroom for all testimony. I did not get the instructions from the judge. So he's been found guilty of all 3 counts. I think it's in this article, but I remember it close enough. For second-degree murder, it's up to 40 years. For third-degree murder, it's up to 25 years. And for manslaughter, it's up to 10 years. Now, I know they also said in the article the average in Minnesota, in Minnesota, for a count of second or third degree murder, the average is 12. The sentence is 12 and a half years. Although the prosecutors asked for a stronger sentence, and they'll probably get it. The other thing to remember with this is, even if they max out the sentences, they have 2 things they can do. They can either run concurrent or consecutive. Concurrent means if he's sentenced to 40 years and then another 25 years and another 10 years, running concurrently means once he hits his 10th year in prison, then the 10 years for manslaughter is done. Once he hits his 25th year, the 25 years for third degree murder is gone. And then he still has the remaining 15 years for the second degree murder charge. So keep that in mind when they come out with these sentences. Consecutively means he's sentenced to 40 years and then 25 years and then 10 years for a total of 75 years in prison. If my math is right. So go ahead and pull out your calculator and check me. I could be wrong, or you can just Google it. But now, as this verdict was being handed out within a few minutes, there was a report of a police-involved shooting in Columbus, Ohio. And this is a tragedy, and there's no good way to say this, because a 16-year-old girl died. And the whole situation, the body cam got released really quickly by the police department. And I'm not going to show it on here because I know what that does to limiting how YouTube recommends my videos. I have a better understanding of how this stuff works now. So I'm not going to show the video, but I will attach this article, or I'll link this article in the description, because the video is embedded in this, so you can see it, look at it for yourself. What I will say is, based on what's in this article and what I saw watching the video, the police were called because of a fight. They show up, an African-American girl, they didn't know her age at that point, 16-year-old girl, was brandishing a knife and had attempted to stab two people. I know at least one of them, the police witnessed her trying to stab her. Now, the officer drew his weapon and fired. And what I don't like about the article, because I'm going to go ahead and read part of this, and I think is just disingenuous for the press to write it this way. It'll catch your eye, but it's also disingenuous. Although it is fact, it's not all the facts. Police in Columbus, Ohio released more body camera video Wednesday showing an officer's point of view as he pulled his weapon, opened fire, killing a 16-year-old girl while responding to a 911 call. Well, the fact that they already know the body camera video is released, then they know what the body camera showed, which is that 16-year-old girl had attempted to stab two people and still had a knife in her hand. Now, you can say what you want about de-escalation, because that's one of the points that's brought up, is the police could have attempted to de-escalate the situation. If I'm a police officer and what I can tell is a teenager is coming at me with a knife, yes, I may decide to try to use a taser or pepper spray. When that same 16-year-old is going after a civilian with a knife, then that's a whole different story. It's far easier for me to put my life on the line than it is for me to put somebody else's life on the line and hope. So yes, I do agree that de-escalation can play a part in this, but the situation I saw on a body cam, there really was no time for de-escalation in this. There was a threat to a citizen's life, and the police did what he has to do. And the problem with it is that nobody is talking about, because it'll probably be real justified. I hate to say it, and I know that they came out and started protesting right away, and there was a rumor she wasn't holding a knife, there was this, there was that, which is why Columbus, Ohio did a great thing by releasing that video as fast as they did. That was super smart, and they should be applauded for that, to attempt to de-escalate something before it got bad. Now, on the other hand, people are already coming out to protest it. And on top of it, the one thing that nobody's mentioned, this officer still has to live with what he did. Yes, I feel he was forced to do it, and I feel he made a good decision. But he's got to live with it every day for the rest of his life. And even though, in my mind, from what I saw, he did the right thing, he's still got to live with that decision. And he's got to bear the guilt and bear the burden of that. And you can say what you want about it, comes with the job. But until you've been in a position like that, you have no reason to judge. So we'll fast forward to Chauvin. This happens. The Chauvin verdict comes out. I expected last night to be another dumpster fire of night in Minneapolis and New York City, in Seattle, in Chicago, but it wasn't. With one exception, everything I saw were people were in the streets celebrating the verdict. Yes, some streets were shut down, but we didn't have riots. We didn't have mass looting. We didn't have windows getting broken. And blocking roads may be inconvenient, but that is a peaceful protest. That's a peaceful protest that people can understand. That's a peaceful protest I can get behind. And I'm 100% good with those protests. In fact, if I truly believe in what's going on and truly have faith in the people organizing them, you could probably talk me into going to some of them, as long as they remain peaceful. Blocking a road is an inconvenience. And yes, maybe it does suck for some people, but as an American, those are our rights. Anybody who's watching this is old enough to remember, we don't roll tanks down a road and run over protesters like in Tiananmen Square. We don't do that here. as Americans, we have the right to go out and protest. And people can say whether blocking the road is right or wrong or marching. But I'm here to tell you, it's been effective in the past. It's been effective, and I'm fully behind that. It's when they start destruction, which takes us to Portland. I will tell you this now. I do not live in Portland. I've never had a desire to live in Portland. And what's happened over the last year and a half or so has shown me that I will not even visit Portland at this point. It is a dumpster fire of a city. And it's not getting any better. It's another city that voted to defund the police. So you know what? Here's my message to Portland City police officers. Resign. Take the great training you have and go somewhere else where they will respect you and back you and get out of Portland. And if you live in Portland and you're not part of this, get out. That is all you can do at this point. And if you stay, then I really don't feel sorry for you at this point, because you've reelected the leaders that have allowed this to happen and allowed this to continue, which says you've either voted for them so you're complicit in it, or you haven't voted because you don't care enough. Well, that's on you. I've said in several videos, the silent majority now with social media has the greatest voice we could ever have. I'm a middle-aged guy that sits in a basement and makes YouTube videos that at least 10,000 people watch. I have 10,000 subscribers in less than 6 months, which is faster than I ever thought it would happen. But it's because I'm putting a message out there that people either agree or disagree with, but either way, they're listening to it. So I'm doing my part to try to make it better. And you can do the same thing. And I understand. And Tim Pool brought this up on his show last night. It was Ian and Tim kind of had a discussion about this. And I'm with Tim Pool on this one, that at some point, evil triumphs when good men do nothing. And that's what we're seeing, because the silent majority, I understand you got to get up and you got to go to work and you got a family to feed and this and that and the other. And some of these groups with doxing, and if you don't know what doxing is, that's where you'll be involved with something and they will look up all your information, your address. I'll put it out to everybody so people can come protest at your house or vandalize your house. Or I'm not saying that's what always happens, but it has happened in the past. So yes, to a point, I do understand that. Now, if people like that don't like what I have to say and they dox me, well, I'm hanging out with a cat and they can come find me. It's not what I want, but I'm still going to send my message out there, because I'm tired of sitting back and just talking to my family and friends and giving them my opinions. If we use our voice as the silent majority, if we become the verbal majority, we can cut down on some of the stuff that's happening. Now, Portland is in a unique position for a lot of reasons. Last night, police declared an illegal, or where's the exact term? Where are we? Police declared unlawful assembly because they started breaking windows. One person was seen breaking and spray painting the windows of Starbucks. Hey, here's a picture. I'm going to talk about doxing. There you go. 24-year-old Kenneth Harold. Why? Okay, Starbucks probably has insurance. I'm positive they do, which means they get their repairs done. But you have baristas who may be paying their rent with the money they make in that Starbucks. And are they going to be able to go to work until those windows are repaired? Because remember, it's food service, so there are certain things that they have to have for them to open and serve. All the other destruction that's been done, the part nobody talks about is, yes, businesses have insurance, but some of these businesses, the insurance doesn't pay enough to repair and do debris removal. Or even if they can be up and running again in 3 to 6 months, with everything that's happened with COVID, do they have the money to do it? And B, what about their employees that no longer have jobs because of what you've done? Now, I know you don't care, because most of you are unemployed and live in basements and Some other people that have been arrested when they actually put their information out there actually had really good jobs that they were fired from because they're out there taking part in riots. Which takes us to Rose City Antifa. Now, I was going to do a separate video just on this, but what I realized in talking to somebody that was giving me information about it who has since left and actually moved their entire family to another city, it was kind of hard to any background about why he left, because I do think that's important. It's still very fresh. And as I said, Antifa is very good at doxing people. And they have moved. They're trying to reestablish their life somewhere else. And he has realized that that's not what he wants to do. So I used it for more background than anything else. But Antifa in general, the concept people don't understand about Antifa is there is no overwhelming leadership committee nationwide or worldwide for Antifa. They're made up of cells. Rose City Antifa can be considered one cell. Now, do the cells talk to each other? Yes, to a point they do. But to another point, you use Rose City Antifa. Well, they have a complete vetting program and a training program that every prospective member has to go through. And then once you've completed all of this, then the members vote on whether or not you're going to be allowed to join. And you could be stopped from joining just because you're not willing to take something to the level that they want you to take it to. So they vote you out and you go away. But once you go through the training, there's training on doxing. There's training on the history of Antifa, which goes all the way back to the Cable Street battle in Britain, which was a few different communities came together to fight the British Union of Fascists led by Oswald Mosley. And if you actually have an interest to that, I'll throw that name in a description because he's actually he's not a hero in any way, shape, or form, but he's kind of an interesting guy at a time when fascists had taken control of Italy and Germany. And then he wanted to do the same thing in Britain, and it didn't work out so well. But yes, they go all the way back to the Battle of Cable Street and then bring it forward through Antifa type groups forming in Britain out of people from the punk music scene and some of the original skinheads, because not all skinheads were racist. Keep that in mind. And football hooligans. And so you get the idea of the type of people that created these groups in Britain. And in the United States, a lot of it started as anarchists and the punk music scene, which I'm a huge fan of punk music. But it did not lead me down that road because I understand being anti-fascist. What I don't understand is how you attack everything and claim fascism, but as soon as somebody says something you disagree with, you call them a fascist, or you hit them or throw something at them, or you vandalize their property. That's got nothing to do with fighting fascism. That's just being a dick. And it doesn't work. And that's why we keep having this violence in Portland, because as you can see, Rose City Antifa is organized. They've been around since 2007. They have a vetting and training for the people that come in. And some of the training, the majority of the training is mandatory. They also have optional training, like going to the gun range. So if you're conservative and you're thinking, oh, we have nothing to worry about with these people because they're anti-gun, they're anti-this or no, they're not. They are pro-violence. Many of them are pro-gun. We have to be careful when you go through this. And here's a good example. Solidarity helps us model the kind of world we want to live in, a classless society, free from all forms of oppression. Yes, and they have a background in socialism and Marxism, which, you know, if you've watched any of my videos, I'm wholeheartedly against. Because I do believe in the equity of opportunity. I do not believe in the equity of outcomes, because the equity of outcomes is based on several things. Everybody has natural talents. My natural talents are not the same as yours. So we're not going to achieve the same outcome if I want to go become a professional baseball player. What I think guaranteeing equity of outcomes does, it creates a lack of initiative in society. It creates a lack of free thinking. It creates more problems than it actually solves. Now, equity of opportunity, I do think we need to get to, because there are issues in society today. And by not addressing those issues, we're not doing anybody any favors. So, yes, equity of opportunity, not so much equity of outcomes, because I'm not a communist, I'm not a socialist, I'm not a Marxist. But everybody deserves a level playing field. And yes, we still have issues with racism in our society. I don't think it's as bad as some of these groups make it out to be, but it is still there. And additional violence is not going to fix that. Additional violence will take momentum away from this movement. I think what we saw last night in Minneapolis and a few other cities with people celebrating the verdict, I'm 100% okay with that. You want to block some roads, you want to march with signs, you want to chant, 100% okay with that. How about we do some positive things? I didn't bother to look it up today. As I was starting the video, I was thinking I should have looked it up, but the number of people shot in Chicago over the weekend. Because if you've seen, I've used that comparison a few times, because I've never seen Black Lives Matter or Antifa organize to protest people of color being shot in Chicago, unless it's by police. So let's be honest here. There are far more people of color shot in criminal acts in places like Chicago than you'll ever see police shootings. But we don't hear anything about that. We don't hear anything about making society better as a whole. We hear about these isolated incidents here and there, and no, they're not right. And like I said, the shooting in Columbus, Ohio is a tragedy. No matter how you look at it, it's a tragedy. But we're not going to fix it by breaking things. We will fix it by coming together as a society, which is something we are not doing. It's something people are almost working against. And it's because I truly believe they want to break down society as we know it and rebuild a world without borders. And they say a classless society. Well, here's a secret. In your Marxist, socialist, communist, Leninist dreams, show me one time that's actually worked anywhere. Oh, I know, they just didn't do it right. And China became Maoist, and the Soviet Union became Leninist and then Stalinist, and North Korea is a whole different animal. But no, it hasn't worked, because the idea of every single person being equal violates human nature. Now, I will end on this, and I'm not going to say it right because I haven't read it in a while, but it was written by, I want to say it was a Methodist minister about World War II in Germany. First, they came for the Jews, and I did not speak up, for I was not a Jew. Then they came for the teachers, and I did not speak up because I was not a teacher. And then they came for the gypsies, and I did not speak up because I was not a gypsy. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. Keep that in mind when you start looking at these groups that are going all out against something. That's what society creates. Ladies and gentlemen, if you like what I have to say, please like, subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments. Share with your friends. If you disagree with me, please hit dislike and tell me why in the comments. We can have a discussion about it. I'll even have you on the show and we can talk about it. But with that, everybody have a good